Gentlemen, I don't know if you just heard Tisa tells, but she said that y'all seen her edges when she was in New York. Edges meaning the edges on her hair. And that would qualify her as being black because somehow, somewhat, or some way, they seem nappy. We don't believe you. You need more people. But we're really not talking about that. Let me show you what we're talking about. Let's get into some of this straight game.
Blackjack. Life is like those cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.
Welcome back, guys. Welcome back. It's your boy DELRAY Richardson, platinum artist, platinum songwriter, Straight Game TV. I thank you for tuning in. I appreciate your time. I appreciate your support, ladies and gentlemen. The only thing over here we ask for is your time and attention, because the only thing we intend on dropping is nothing but straight game. If you give me a minute, I want to enlighten you today. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear, and let's be real clear about what we've been talking about in relation to this Tisa Tell situation, if you will. You seen that I did it live earlier, right? In regards to the racial, and like I said, I'm not calling a Tisa Tells. I'm talking Tisa Tells and racial fraud, right? And the problem with pretending to be black, ladies and gentlemen. I think we touched a nerve. But see, the cold part about this game here is, lies run sprints, but the truth runs marathons. And I want you to understand what I'm about to say. She just said that because she has nappy edges on her hair, that somehow makes her black. We don't really care about your hair. We're not looking at that. We're not talking about, this is not remedial class. This is not the class where we are trying to clown one. They may be trying to do it on other channels, but we're far from that over here on Straight Game TV. What we want to deal with is simply the facts. The fact of the matter is Tisa Tells has been walking around calling people the N-word, disrespecting people, slandering people, creating this ghost image of her now a victim claiming. There is a true thing that is victim shaming, ladies and gentlemen. Absolutely. Absolutely. There is a true thing about that involving situations involving women, ladies and gentlemen. And we will be the first to say that. We're not playing any games. This is not about playing games. And this is not about any type of manipulation or anything like that, if you will. What we're simply talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is the fact that Tisa Tells has been misrepresenting the truth. And I wanted to bring it to you. Sometimes you got to bring it to them live. So like Kendra said, sometimes you got to pop out and show niggas if you really want to, do what you need to do, right? And see, I wasn't in New York, ladies and gentlemen. Let me be clear. I wasn't in New York. I wasn't in a courtroom. None of that. What I was doing is I was broadcasting live by way of Inner City Press, who was in the actual courtroom, who was typing basically verbatim Inner City Press and also updates on Diddy trial from X.com, right? Formerly Twitter, right? And so what we were doing, and the people who know and who are involved or who are members over here on Straight Game TV, you can type in the chat if I'm lying. You can type in the chat if I'm lying. Now, check this out. I want to show y'all something, because this is very important, ladies and gentlemen. Very, 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 very important. And when, because, like I said, you know, Tisa's really been over there victim claiming. She's been victim claiming, ladies and gentlemen. And I'm going to get to that. Like I said, there is a such thing as victim shaming, really exists. But there's also a such thing as victim claiming, right? When someone's claiming to be a victim of something that does not exist, ladies and gentlemen. And that's what Tisa Tells is doing right now. Like I said, once again, the hope and the prayer that she was basically putting out there during the trial, ladies and gentlemen. The hope and the prayer that Diddy would somehow be found on the RICO Act, if you will. Thank you for the donations. If I don't say thank you for the donations, ladies and gentlemen, it's because I'm focused on giving you this game. And like I said, each and every person that comes and chimes in, I appreciate you guys. But like I said, I appreciate the donations. But my thing, I really got to give you this message, because the message is the part that it's going to, you know, hopefully you'll walk away a little bit more enlightened. And hopefully I'll walk away a little bit more enlightened with what you guys have to say in the chat. And we're going to deal with the chat also. But I want to give you this right here, ladies and gentlemen. We're not playing a numbers game. This ain't a numbers game, because, and let me tell you something that I did, ladies and gentlemen, that I just found out recently. I want y'all to pay attention to this. Listen to me when I tell you this, what I'm about to tell y'all. I did a video on Tisa Tells about a couple of months back, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, that video is gone off my page now. I'm going to say it again. I'm going to say it again, ladies and gentlemen. I said I did a video on Tisa Tells a couple of months ago about her lying involving the Diddy situation before he was even indicted. She was talking about the stuff that happened at the studio with the little guy. He had got shot and all of that, and this, that, and the other. Ladies and gentlemen, the video is gone off my page. And there was no copyright violation, ladies and gentlemen. It just vanished. I want y'all to digest that. You need to digest what I just said. For the people who are, who are just casual listeners and not YouTube savvy, I need you to understand this. Before I get into it, there was a video on my page a couple of months back that I did about Tisa Tells lying, ladies and gentlemen. It is no longer on my page. It's gone. I don't think you heard me, man. I said it's gone. There was no copyright claim. There was no nothing. Tisa Tells is over there on her page holding up stick figures of herself, claiming that she works for the FBI or something like that of YouTube. I wouldn't know anything about that. I don't think YouTube would want to be classified as working with the government from that perspective. Once again, there she goes, lying on YouTube, saying YouTube is a federal government agency, ladies and gentlemen, holding up stick figure pictures, y'all. I want you to understand that the video that I did a couple of months back on Tisa Tells is gone off my page. There was no copyright claim. There was nothing, because it didn't involve that. I want y'all to take that and pause and ask yourself, well, damn, DELRAY, well, how did the video disappear? I want you to sit back and you think about that, because the video was so factual, so on point. It exposed her for what she does and what she's been doing, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to understand that. But check this out. I want to get into this here, ladies and gentlemen. Tisa Tells racial fraud and the problem with pretending to be black, ladies and gentlemen. She just said on her live that black women, you look at the picture on the thumbnail, black women, y'all know who I am. It's a cultural thing. And once again, the cultural misappropriation of black women's hair is where she just went with this one. Black women, y'all seen my edges when I was down there in New York? right? They was nappies just like y'all's was, or y'all's is, right? We ain't going for that. You got to come a little cleaner than that. But let me get into this. When you understand what's been going on, ladies and gentlemen, the outright disinformation campaign that Tisa tells has been running from day one. In New York City, every day after the trial, once again, one claiming to be in the courtroom, you could be in the room where the information is being disseminated, but not listen to a damn word or a damn piece of truth that's being told there. You can then come out of that same place and then reiterate and regurgitate a bunch of lies and a bunch of stories that you want to speak on based on your interpretation of what it is that's going on. Right? Like I said earlier, when someone plays dress up, right, in black identity to build a brand or gain access or wield credibility, that's not allyship, ladies and gentlemen. That's theft. You got to understand what I'm about to give you. Like I said once again, right? This is a disturbing situation that needs to be put on blast. She didn't tell us if you want to go over there, ask Tisa tells what's her real name. What's your real name? Who are you? Because Tisa tells ain't your real name. Who are you? If you're claiming to be black, you're African American, then what's your real name? What's your government? See, because once again, she's one of those peoples who can dish it, but she can't take it. You see? And so now everybody's, and I heard the little veil shot at me, right? Everybody now, and the quick dismissive statement of these losers, they're not getting as many numbers as I am. This ain't about numbers. This is about facts. The numbers will come in when they come in. We ain't worried about that. We're not even tripping on that, right? Because this ain't all we do. You got to understand, like I said, when we were doing this over here, ladies and gentlemen, we understood, and most of the people, if I'm being correct, right or wrong in the chat, most of the people over here that were listening to the testimony that was actually going on was like, oh, wow. Right? And then they would hear something about from Tisa Tells and they'd be like, well, what courtroom was she in? Right? Let me explain to you this, ladies and gentlemen. Who is Tisa Tells? She kind of skimmed across the fact that, a little bit, so, now they say I'm not black and blah, blah, blah. But ladies and gentlemen, y'all seen my edges. These losers. And then she keeps jumping from subject to subject to subject, right? All along, avoiding the answer. When one's being asked a question and they keep obfuscating and ducking and dodging and throwing out little names, calling people names. That's that elementary school thing. Oh, these are losers. They broke. Ain't got no money. You know what I mean? This ain't about no money. This ain't about money. Who are you? Identify yourself. Because see, you've come to play in the game of where this is a cultural thing, because like I said, I'm not a defender of Sean P. Diddy Combs, right? Once again, the insinuation that she would have you believe is that Diddy is paying me or other people who speak truth to power or truth against lies, right? She would have you believe that somehow we're being compensated by Diddy, ladies and gentlemen. And then say it in such a way where it's, Diddy paying them. Diddy paying them. How much he paying y'all? And a lot of people, because she sounds so entertaining, entertain that gossip and that garbage. But let me tell you, ladies and gentlemen, I wouldn't take a dime from Diddy. Like I said, you have to understand that when you come with character and integrity, you ain't got to do all of that. You ain't got to do no tap dancing for a few dollars to talk favorably about somebody because when you simply looking at the facts. Tisa Tells basically ignored the facts in the Diddy trial, started to talk about how the jury was stupid. And if you looked at that video when the young man came over to Tisa and he asked her what? Tisa, what about the RICO? So what you think about the jury's decision? She said, oh, I thought they was ignorant, just like you. Oh, wow. So now it is so personal that the jury, the people that she don't even know, never even met, now they're ignorant because it did not fall in line with the narrative that she was setting out. So she looked foolish. Once again, changing what? The subject, ladies and gentlemen, pointing at someone else, trying to get you to look at them instead of looking at the misinformation and disinformation that she was giving you. I need you to worry about him. He broke. Ooh, look at his shoes. You know what I mean? He ain't got Gucci on. What are them? Right? And trying to get you to laugh and look and see what that is. We're down with those diversion tactics over here, ladies and gentlemen. We're going to get you on straight game tonight if we ain't going to get you on nothing else. Like I said, we're not playing the numbers game. So the question is, who is Tisa Tells? This is what we want to know. We not mad at you. If you a sister, state your name. Is your real name Clausecia Jenkins? You know, Shaquana Jones? What's your real name? We need to know. We need to know. Because like I said, when she's running around here using the N-word, not only using it, but using it in a demeaning manner, ladies and gentlemen. Point blank, period. Calling people dusty, the N-word, and all of these other degrading things, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, Tisa Tells has positioned herself as a bold frontline journalist, in what she's not. She's not a journalist covering African-American cases, crimes, injustice, and courtroom drama. Behind the headlines and live streams, her lies are disturbing the truth. Listen, she's been on ABC News. She's been on all of these other networks where she's been propped up, right? Right? But behind the headlines of what she's doing and behind these titles, these clickbait titles, right, that she's writing, lies a disturbing truth, ladies and gentlemen. It lies a disturbing truth. And if you listening, right, which they really don't want you to do, they want you to focus on the little shiny object. Can you believe that, ladies and gentlemen, to all of the African-American ladies and gentlemen, and whoever's in the chat, let's be clear. Tisa Tells says that you should believe that she's black because of her edges. Because her edges are somehow nappy-peasy or whatever you want to call it. That's the reason why she said that you should believe that she's black. She won't tell you a real name. Why won't she tell you a real name? Because there's something that she's hiding, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, like anybody here that's trying to come with the foolishness, you're not gonna do anything. We understand that these things and these videos are algorithmically controlled, right? Like I said, hit the like button, hit the thumbs up button, hit the share button. If you have not become a subscriber, please do. Let's get into this straight game. I'm not even paying attention to that, right? Ladies and gentlemen, despite projecting herself, listen, Tisa Tells I'm talking about. Despite projecting herself as a member of the black community, it's now confirmed Tisa Tells is not African American. And ain't nothing wrong with that. For the non-African American people that are in the chat or listening outside the chat, it ain't nothing wrong with not being black. But there's something wrong when one is masquerading as something, using racial epithets when someone bullies her or targets her, but challenges her truth and the things that she's been saying. It's just as simple as that, ladies and gentlemen, right? So despite projecting herself as a member of the black community, it's now confirmed Tisa Tells is not African American. She is of Indian or Asian descent, right? Or a combination of them both. And there's nothing wrong with that. But like I said, she has no cultural or ancestral ties to the black experience, ladies and gentlemen. You have to understand that. There's a difference, right? There's a true difference in being a part of the culture and now what she attempts to basically exploit by pretending to be something versus actually being that. And like I said, let me be clear about what I'm saying. I don't hate Tisa Tells. I'm not bullying Tisa Tells. I'm calling her out like she tries to call out everybody. She's been called out the prosecution, Tini Garagos, Mark Garagos, Mark Ignafalo. She's been called out Diddy. She even called out Diddy's mama. Ladies and gentlemen, she even called out Diddy's mama. Diddy's mama ain't got nothing to do with this. But once again, she has no boundaries, but when confronted about her lies, now all of a sudden, she's victim claiming. She's claiming to be a victim of being bullied. She's claiming of being a victim of being attacked, right? When nothing can be further from the truth. We see what you're doing, Tisa, and it's not going to work. It's not going to work, right? Like I said, she can go live, but we can go live. It doesn't matter, like I said. And so now, she was questioned about her identity, ladies and gentlemen. Once again, she attempted to try to go there in the recent live that she just did. And her response to her being questioned about her identity and being black was, y'all seen my edges. Y'all seen me in New York. Y'all seen my edges, right? Once again, the cultural misappropriation of black women's hair as if all black women's hair is of a kinky, peasy, nappy fashion. That's simply not so. Think about what she says when she said that, ladies and gentlemen. I'm trying to put you on something. She said, y'all seen my edges. Since when has edges been the identification of an African American woman, ladies and gentlemen? My mother's black. My aunts are black. My grandmother's black. Right? And that's never, ever been a qualification for who they were or how they identified themselves when you look at them. Girl, look at my edges. I'm blacker than ever. Are you kidding me? Are you kidding me? So when she was questioned about her fairly and directly, her response was she used the N-word, specifically saying the N-word on camera, then brushed it off by saying she's one of us. One of who? One of who, ladies and gentlemen? We trying to find out. That's why we asking the question. This is not an attack on Tisa Tells. If you're talking about attack, she's been calling people monsters, dusty, niggas, and all of these other things that she's been calling people. So now when we call her or call her out, once again, she said, look at my edges. You can see my edges. Look. Here go my edges right here, y'all. They nappy just like y'all. Y'all know I'm black. Ladies and gentlemen. Remember Rachel what was it? Dolezal, right? The young lady who was of another persuasion who was called out because she was acting like she was pretending to be black and getting all of the benefits and everything. This is the same blueprint, but a tad bit different. We've seen the playbook before with Rachel, right? Individuals who falsely claim black identity to access credibility, opportunity, and platforms. She's speaking on issues in regards to who we are, right? And then claiming to be one of us, which gives her the end to say what she needs to say in regards to Diddy or to whoever. But ladies and gentlemen, I told you I did a video on it not too long ago. The video ain't up on my channel no more, ladies and gentlemen. How did that get taken down? It wasn't vulgar. It wasn't disrespectful. It was pointing out her lies. Well, I'm going to do that tonight. I'm going to do that tonight. For, like I said, for the people who didn't get it, I'm going to do it again tonight. Listen, but here's where it gets worse. Tisa didn't just lie about who she was. She weaponized the lie. Ladies and gentlemen, she's weaponizing the lie to insert herself into black grief, black trauma, and resistance. You got to understand that. I said she did it. Not only that, she weaponized the lie, right, to insert herself into black grief, trauma, and resistance. All of the things that we go up against, right? She's been walking a whole different path until she came onto this YouTube thing. She started YouTube doing makeup for Sephora or Maybelline or any of them other things, right? And like I said, that's how she got into this game, right? And then she began to talk about things and seen quickly that, well, you know, if I kind of exaggerate, you know what I mean, and I give this little, you know, a thing, right? And then, oh, so what was she identifying as before? Because now that seems to be a big part of what she's doing. Like I said, she needs more people, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, I need you to understand. When somebody pretends to be black, right? They don't just co-opt the culture. They exploit the pain without enduring the consequences, ladies and gentlemen. Not getting that job, being the first to let go, you know what I mean? Being taken out of context, all of these other things, being racially discriminated against. We know our history. Like I said, once again, so when she does that, that's the thing that's more concerning than anything else. Like I said, we don't hate, or should I say, I don't hate Tisa Tells. But I don't even know who Tisa Tells is. What's your real name? Type in the chat, ladies and gentlemen, what's your real name? Please. What's your real name? What's your real name? Ladies and gentlemen. And yet, listen, and yet somehow Tisa is still being celebrated by some viewers, right? Let me ask you this. She being celebrated by certain viewers on her channel, basically, and the first thing they say is what color got to do with it? Well, she was the one that basically said that she was black, like it meant something. Nobody was just asking you, like, you know, what's your nationality? What's your background? And she immediately got offensive about it. Red flag. You know, you ask somebody, hey man, you know, my dad's black, my father's white. You know what I mean? My mother's Japanese. You know, my father's Korean. You know, whatever it is. We're not looking to hate on you because you're different. We're looking to celebrate you for your difference, not hate on you for your difference. But when someone obfuscates and avoids the question, but then is claiming to be of African American, right? Or African descent, that's a problem. Like, hold on. All he actually was, and a lot of people, you deal with that all the time, but, you know, if you mix whatever, it's all good. Nobody's looking to hate on you. We're just looking to, okay, yeah, you know what? So we have context. Context is very important, but as you see with Tisa Tells, context doesn't matter because she's been giving a lot of disinformation without the context, if you will, right? So when asked the question about who she is and what she was like, she got offended. She's like, nigga, I'm one of us. I'm one of y'all. I'm one, you know what I mean? Boom. Now, coming on this live just recently, she still didn't answer the question, right? What'd she say? Look at my edges. The edges of your hair? That make you black? Hold on, ladies and gentlemen. Every African American woman that's seen that video should have paused and said, hold on, girl. Hold on. Just hold on. Don't even do that. Right? Don't do that. Because I know people in my family like, hold on, your edges. Like, what that got to do with what the question was, right? So she's quick to, boom, hit you with one of them left turns. They losers. Don't pay attention to them, girl. Back on to what I was saying that really didn't mean anything. Check out this manipulation and disinformation that I'm about to give you about Diddy, about how he gonna get 20 years, about how he's a monster. Oh, and his old mother. She was talking about the man mother. Her man mother ain't did nothing to no Tisa tells, man. Hit the like button, ladies and gentlemen. Hit the share button. Hit the thumbs up button. Like I said, share this, man. Share this. Like I said, now listen, I want to show you how some people are propped up and things are overlooked when they do certain things, but then certain people are punished for the same things that other people do. Listen to me now. Y'all ready? Check it out. What if Tisa tells was Jamila Jamil? I'm giving you the contrast, right? Tisa tells looks strikingly similar to the actress Jamila Jamil. Same eyes, nose, hair, texture, skin tone. They kind of resemble each other a lot, right? Now imagine this. If Jamila Jamil, a Pakistani Indian actress, got on IG Live and used the N-word like Tisa Tills did, claiming it was just a joke, because that's what she said. She was basically, when she said the N-word and all of these other things, and then she called the dude the same thing, right? She was like, it was just a joke. Or that she was one of us, right? Would Jamila Jamil survive that? If she got on IG and did the same thing that Tisa Tills did on Instagram? I'm sorry, and on Instagram as well as on YouTube? Would she survive that? But she claiming to be black, so that she think that gives her a pass, but we don't know what she is. Right? She said, look at my hair. My hair, look. Y'all seen my roots. Look at the back of my hair. Look, I'm black. Y'all ain't got to question that. Don't worry about that. Back to this misinformation and disinformation I'm about to give you, right? But Jamila Jamil wouldn't survive that, because we know that Jamila Jamil is who she is, and we appreciate who she is and her standing up for being Pakistani Indian and all of the other things, right? Right. Now, would cancel culture give Jamila Jamil a pass? No, the internet would shred her. Point blank period, ladies and gentlemen. So why is Tisa Tells, a virtual unknown before this, being defended, praised, or even platformed after doing exactly that? Where's the outrage, ladies and gentlemen? Where's the outrage? Tisa Tells does not represent real sexual assault victims. Tisa Tells does not represent real domestic violence victims. Tisa Tells is out here victim claiming. She's claiming to be a victim when someone simply walked up to her and asked her, what does she think about the jury's decision? And she flew off the handle, ladies and gentlemen. She flew off the handle. So which told me, when I looked at that video, that she could dish it, but she couldn't take it. She could dish it, but she couldn't take it. And so, like I said, once again, we're not an enemy of Tisa Tells. We want to know who you are. Absolutely. The diversionary tactic, we get it, right? And ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the most outrageous lies that she told. Once again, so when we're saying what we're saying, we're going to offer you proof. We're not just going to come and tell you something. They want you to get into all of this old sidetrack information. That's what we're not going to do. That's what we're not going to do. The courthouse lie. Then this information, ladies and gentlemen, in real time. Listen. And just when you think it couldn't get worse, Tisa falsely claims that the U.S. Marshals put the courthouse on lockdown because of her. Ladies and gentlemen, did you hear what I just said? She went and said that the U.S. Marshals had put the courthouse on lockdown because of her, that she caused the security escalation. It was about her. It wasn't about the security of the judges, of you know, all of the court employees and the courthouse in general. See, Tisa Tells was in the building, y'all. We need to lock this motherfucker down. You know, when Tisa's here, you know what I mean? Look at her edges. Them gold and platinum edges. Stop it. Stop it. You understand what I'm saying? Let's be clear, ladies and gentlemen. That's a flat out lie. When she said that, when she said that, it was a flat out lie. It was a flat out lie, ladies and gentlemen. Listen, because footage from Oda on Go shows exactly what caused the disruption, ladies and gentlemen. So despite there being actual footage, Tisa Tells went on to tell that lie. And the actual footage showed a woman in the crowd had her bare chest oiled up in public, and law enforcement stepped in to manage the chaos. So it was chaos outside of the courtroom, which had them probably radio inside and say, hey, you know what? We need to tighten security up. You know what I'm saying? But Tisa twisted the narrative to insert herself as the protagonist in a story that had nothing to do with her absolutely at all. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not journalism. That is not reporting. That is narcissism, ladies and gentlemen. Point blank, period. Point blank, period. And like I told you, there used to be a video on my page that ain't on my page no more. But guess what? I got another copy of it, Tisa. I got another copy of it. You know what? I'm going to redo it and then put it out again. Yep. A little bit. And because see, now it means a little bit more now that when somebody gets a video removed off your page and you don't even know about it, that tell me that I'm on to something, y'all. Wouldn't that tell you something? Like, damn, hold on, the video gone. What happened? You know what I mean? It wasn't disrespectful. It wasn't demeaning. It was simply pointing out the mistruths that she was telling early on. Wouldn't that tell you that you on to something? Wouldn't that tell you that you on to something? So like I said, once again, y'all, most people say, well, you know, DELRAY, why this matters? Why does this even matter, right? Because there's a deeper harm, ladies and gentlemen, right? False identity for credibility. That's why. Pretending to be black gives Tisa a voice she didn't earn, ladies and gentlemen. She exploited the weight of our lived experiences as African Americans to speak on the behalf of our community. That's why. That's why. And so when people look at her and then they calculate, and if a person really does their homework to calculate the misinformation and disinformation to true black journalists and people who have went to school and been hired by news networks and things like that, they like, hold on. When they want to couple you in with the bad stuff versus the good stuff, right? It's just as simple as that. As simple as that. Also, the deeper harm, the casual use of the N-word from her. As if being or as if saying that she black gives her a pass. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. As the culture, the hip hop culture, a black culture, African Americans, the hardworking ones, the ones who we stand on the backs of and the shoulders of, who have fought in the struggle and represented us, and hopefully we try to represent them to the best of our ability to represent our people. Like I said, every time you go out, you are a representation of your race, whether you want to be or not. That's what you, right? Oh, absolutely. Whether you want to claim that ticket or not, that's your ticket to claim, right? So always be on your best and always know that somebody's looking to judge you for your worst, not your best. So what other harm it does? The casual use of the N-word. Her use of the N-word as a joke when she said, oh, it was a joke, is disgusting, ladies and gentlemen. It's disgusting. And she can't even tell us her real name. Stop playing, y'all. Stop, people, they speaking for one girl, go ahead, girl. Oh, you did a great job. You don't even know her name. Oh, it's just Tisa Tells. That's it? Who sent her? Who she work for, really? What's really going on? If you don't know that, I need to know who this person is. I don't know what they talking about, who they talking for, whose narrative are they speaking? Because I know the other day, ladies and gentlemen in the chat, you know this to be a fact. When we was covering that for the 6 weeks that we was on the trial, right? Every day that Tisa Tells would come outside that courtroom, she was giving different information that was actually going on in the courtroom, ladies and gentlemen. This is a fact. Not something that I just want to tell you because I feel like I want to tell. These are facts, right? So her use of the N-word and then claiming it as a joke is disgusting. I was just joking, Huh? No, you could say it because if you say it and you mean it, because you hold that, because you know where you coming from with that, you ain't got to say you was joking about that, right? Because the people that you talking to gonna understand where you coming from because it's cultural. And that's what I'm talking about that cultural experience and the weight of our lived experience, right? When we've taken that word that was so demeaning and degrading, and in the hip hop culture and community, though some of our elders still don't like it, right? We've took it and turned it as a term of endearment amongst us. And for certain people, if you use it out of context, you'll get smacked in your mouth. Point blank, period. We've seen videos on YouTube, on whatever, when somebody calls somebody the N-word to the wrong person. And it doesn't have to be some young person. It could be that same individual that don't even like hearing it from us, our elders, and that somebody slip up and say the wrong word and think that they can say it to them, and they simply ain't having it. And sometimes even black people, as we know, ladies and gentlemen, and for the African-American peoples who in the chat right now, if you at one of your relatives' house and they don't play that, they'll tell you, don't say that word in my house. Point blank, period. So as much as people think that all black people may accept that and are with that, they not. But like I said, for the hip hop culture, right? In certain segments of the culture, we took the word mainly through what Tupac Shakur was talking about in the NIGGA, right? Meaning never ignorant, getting goals accomplished. Not the NIGGR, which the ones meant that the niggas with the gold ropes, right? Was his terminology. But then the other one with the niggas hanging from the ropes, if you will, right? That's who Tisa Tells was talking about. These niggas, hold on, where that come from? Where that come from? And then when questioned about her, what's your nationality? Nigga, please, I'm one of us. I'm one of y'all. Like, you know what I mean? Like, no. And then today, you come back. Now they want to question my blackness. No, we just wanted to know who you were. You know what I mean? Where you from? What's your background, right? Black women, if y'all see me in New York, y'all seen my edges. Your edges? When she said that, I was like, seen your what? Because I swear to God on everything, man, I've never heard nobody, as long as I've been on this earth, I've never heard a black woman say, look at my edges as a means to identify that she was a black woman. I've never heard that. I've heard them say it in regards to, girl, look at my edges, I need my hair done. You know what I mean? But I ain't never heard them say as far as, and see, that's that cultural thing. See, when you've been around and you know what I mean? Girl, look at my edges, I need my hair done. You know what I mean? But not as far as, girl, look at my edges. Can't you see I'm black? Simply not that, ladies and gentlemen. Right? See, because the word, right? The N-word carries centuries of pain, resistance, and redamnation, right? You don't get to use it because you feel black today. Right? So when she said it was a joke, it was like, oh, I'm feeling black today. Let me say it. This dusty, dirty, these, it's just all kinds of derogatory names that she was spilling out like she hadn't really used those words often, is what it appeared to be, right? So when we understand that and understand like what I'm saying, then you'll get it. Ladies and gentlemen, I want you to understand to be perfectly clear, because a lot of people like to have to say this when they say it in the chat. This is not just about race, ladies and gentlemen. I need you to understand that before you put yourself in the corner. Oh, what is a race card? No. This isn't just about race. It's about ethics, power, and exploitation. I'm going to say it again. It's about ethics, power, and exploitation, right? It's about how some people insert themselves into the black struggles to build a brand while avoiding the reality of being black in America, ladies and gentlemen. We got the DE. How many people lost their job because of the DEI program and the cancellation of that in Washington, D.C. that work for the government? I know a lot of them that were displaced. You see what I'm saying? That's part of that. Also, let's be clear, also women, not just black women, but white women. So that's why I'm saying that this is so important when you think about the big picture of what really is and what really isn't, ladies and gentlemen. So this is not about just race. It's about ethics, power, and exploitation, and being exploited for one's own personal advantage, right? While giving a damn about everybody else. You see what I'm saying? And claiming to be something that a person is really not, right? In the bigger picture, let's just look at the bigger picture in all of this and dealing with Tisa Tells. And like I said, I got a hell of a video coming tomorrow because I'm going to tell you what's really going on with her and how she doing it. Like I said, the video that I had up before, the video gone, ladies and gentlemen. Ladies and gentlemen, it was no copyright claim. There was a video, like I said, for the people who just coming in the chat, there was a video that I did on her a while back in regards to a lie that she told. And the video was so superb that I didn't even really pay attention to it at that particular time because I just caught something that she did. I was like, man, that ain't true. I was like, oh, wow. And so I did a video. Ladies and gentlemen, the video gone off my page. The video gone, y'all. Gone. Disappeared. And now Tisa Tells is over there holding up stick figure pictures that she drew, talking about that she's with the FBI of YouTube or YouTube FBI, something like that. Lying again, because the FBI, there ain't no such thing as the FBI YouTube. Once again, she's the shiny little object. Let me get them off the track. The little diversion here. Let me hold up the little stick figure pictures. You know, hopefully they'll grab onto this. Simple and plain, right? But the bigger question, ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the real conversation. How do we hold journalists accountable for authentic representation, ladies and gentlemen? Because so many times Tisa Tells has said she being a journalist and all of these things and what she was doing and so on and so forth, right? How can non-black allies, listen, ladies and gentlemen, that's what I'm trying to tell you, it's not about race. How can non-black allies support without centering themselves? You understand what I'm saying? So calling out the name for the name, the person for the person, and really seeking out the truth and the facts, even if it does not coincide with what you believe. Because that's how you learn. I don't want everything to coincide with what I believe. Shit, I ain't gonna know now. I'm never gonna learn nothing then. If it just goes, I don't believe that, that's why I don't believe that. I don't even believe that, because I don't believe that. You know what I mean? Listen, what systems are in place to prevent this kind of racial impersonation from happening again? Because like I said, she still won't tell us her name, right? She still hasn't apologized for doing the disrespectful things that she did. She only laughed it off and said, I was joking. I'm one of us. I'm one of y'all. What you mean? Look at my edges. Look at my edges. Look at them. They nappy. Ain't yours nappy too? Like, all black women edges ain't nappy. Some black women got really good grain, if you will. You know what I mean? Simple as that. You know? So, but like I said, once again, that's that cultural misappropriation. You know, to pick out that thing. And like I said, I couldn't believe it when she said it and I didn't understand it. I'm like, what? What she just said? Y'all seen my edges? Huh, they losers, them losers. They broke. They ain't got no money. Oh, okay. Because that's what we focused on now. How much money somebody got on YouTube. Or how much money they may be worth or making. Let me be clear, ladies and gentlemen. Let me be exactly, perfectly clear. We don't gatekeep pain, right? We not gatekeeping on no pain. But we do protect the truth. You have to. You have to. Because if you don't, that's your bad. That's your fault, right? They say if you knew better, you do better, right? So if you know, then act like you know. And stop acting like you don't know or like you don't want to know, right? And the truth is, Tisa Tells doesn't belong in the space she pretended to occupy. She doesn't. She doesn't. She doesn't. And like I said, I'm going to do a video. I'm going to drop a video tomorrow to really give you the perspective and that you really need to have about what's going on with this and what she's really doing, right? Creating all of these things that are allegedly happening that are not really happening, ladies and gentlemen. There's a word for that, but I'm going to cover that, ladies and gentlemen. I got y'all. Trust me. Trust me. Hit the like button, man. Hit the thumbs up button. Like I said, if you have not subscribed to the channel, ladies and gentlemen, and you listening outside the chat, I appreciate you listening. Like I said, we ain't asking for nothing but your time. You know what I mean? To get some of this straight game. Like I said, the truth is, Tisa Tells, or whatever her real name is, doesn't belong in the space she pretended to occupy, ladies and gentlemen. She stayed in New York. She was one of the only people down there. Listen to me. Hold on, check this out, ladies and gentlemen. I want to give y'all some real good game, right? Check this out. If you seen the people that were outside down in New York in front of the federal court building when the Diddy trial was going on, right? None of them really had security or nothing like that. Everybody was out there with their iPhone trying to gain a little content, talking to each other, trying to get commentary from different people and things like that. But she's one of us. You remember that was the quote. She said she one of us, right? How come she was the only one that had security and a little silver gate around her with 2 security guards if she one of us? She knew what she was doing. She knew that she wasn't keeping it accurate. And once again, how New Yorkers do, right? New York has always been a place, and if you know anything about New York has always been a place, yo, keep it real, son. Yo, keep it real, son. You know what I mean? Yo, keep it real, son. Right? Yo, he's bluffing, son. You know what I mean? He's faking. You know what I mean? And so broke, rich, having money, not having money, right? That's always been a thing because guess what, ladies and gentlemen? That's part of the culture. You know what I mean? That's part of the culture, right? Because, see, you can have all the money in the world, but still be a coward and nobody respect you because he's a liar, right? You know what I mean? He be bluffing. He be doing a whole bunch of lying and shit that he don't got to do, but he does that anyway. So, yeah, he got money, but nobody really respect him, right? That's that culture thing that we're talking about. And so when she comes in and she does and gives all of this disinformation, right? That's what spawned the question from the young man who walked up to her, who she said to him, I did a video on this also, yeah, Diddy still not gonna let you suck his dick. That's what she said. Excuse my language, ladies and gentlemen. She said that to that guy. Where did that come from? Where did that come from? You understand what I'm saying? So her having the security, right? If you let's be clear. Channel ABC News, NBC News, CNN correspondents, they usually don't have no security unless it's like in a war zone or somewhere like that. They usually don't have security. But guess what? Tisa Tells had security. But she said she was one of us. Amongst all of those other African-American people, and there was other people, white people down there, there was a few other race people down there really trying to get content and things of that nature. Stop acting like y'all don't know. Stop acting like you don't know. Like I said, ladies and gentlemen. And like I said, and I'm going to leave you with this. I need you to understand, when somebody comes in and perpetrates like that, I need you to understand, and we need them to understand, that black trauma is not a costume. You can't put it on and then take it off. Can't put it on and then take it off. Because see, just like Tisa tells, acting as if she's being an advocate for Cassie, acting as if she's being an advocate for Jane, Daphne Joy, acting as if she's being an advocate for all of the other people that she deems were victims. Ladies and gentlemen, let's be clear. Evidence was presented on both sides. The prosecution brought up all of the people that they thought they could bring up in regards to trying to prove their case, right? The defense didn't bring any witnesses, basically used the prosecution witnesses to basically present their case also. And everything that Tisa tells was saying as far as the RICO, they proved RICO, they got him dead to rights on RICO, blah, blah, blah. When the final result came down, it wasn't what she thought it was. And ever since then, she's been beside herself, putting up these fake titles on the thing, the Diddy trial, the 3-day aftermath. Ain't no aftermath. The only aftermath that's going on is the trauma that Tisa tells us going through based on the fact that she got called out for the lies, right? And now she's trying to prolong that into some kind of aftermath. There is no aftermath. Diddy's sitting in the Metropolitan Detention Center. His kids is at home. He's waiting to be sentenced. And like I said, she's still hoping and wishing, in her titles, Diddy gonna get 20 years. Let me tell you this. Just like Tisa tells sold the RICO. She was selling the RICO. He was guilty of RICO. She's now trying to sell that Diddy's going to get 20 years. Just like she sold the RICO. She's trying to sell it 20 years like that, like she sold the RICO. But guess what? She sold the RICO, but the RICO could not be delivered based on the fact that it wasn't manufactured. So she sold something that actually couldn't be delivered because it never existed. The jury said not guilty on that. The jury said guilty on the Mann Act. Diddy gonna have to live with that, right? But Tisa tells is out here victim claiming. She's claiming to be a victim of being bullied. She's claiming to be a victim of being targeted. That's not true. That's not true. Somebody asked her a question. They coming for me. And she needed as much drama as she possibly could kick up so that you could think that that's what was going on. The guy asked her a question, man. Tisa, what you think about the jury? You know what? I think they were ignorant just as you ignorant. And he was like, what you mean? She said, the way you came at me. Once again, you hear that? The way you came. Now, he just asked you a question. He ain't come at you no kind of way. He just was asking you a question based on everything that she had been pushing up until that point. And she was deeply, deeply hurt about the fact that it didn't go the way that she was selling it. Right? And she had taken all of that money, selling it. I'm representing for the victims out here and the victims and the... No, she's not. No, she's not. She's not. I will say this. For the women who have really suffered, and I'm talking about, and I mean this, who have went through domestic violence, being sexually assaulted, my heart goes out to you. I told a story about somebody that I knew that went through that, and I was there immediately after the situation. It ain't nothing to play with. I'm talking about, I seen the face of it after it happened. It ain't nothing to play with. It ain't nothing that you get on no YouTube about every day and claim to be the advocate, or you advocating for somebody that done went through something serious like that, ladies and gentlemen. Them scars stay with you for life. Tisa tells us here for the moment, ladies and gentlemen. This ain't about y'all. She ain't about y'all. She ain't representing y'all. Let that be perfectly clear. I don't claim to represent anybody. I'm just coming to give you this straight game. Point blank, period. I need you to understand that. Tisa tells us victim claiming. Now, She's trying to insert herself as being bullied, trying to insert herself as being targeted. It's simply not true. And just like she questions the jury's decision, people were questioning her decision as to what she was pushing. But then she started using the N-word, calling people the N-word, and dusty and broke. Go ahead, you and your little channel. You ain't doing nothing. Really? That's what this about? Having a little versus a big channel? So you could see right then and there. Her mind ain't on what she's trying to tell you. She's worrying about how many of y'all she can come in there and suck up some of that old disinformation. Some of that old poppycock. Some of that old fried ice cream, if you will. It's hot outside. We want the real thing. We don't want fried ice cream. We want the real thing, ladies and gentlemen. And so now, once again, like I said, black trauma is not a costume. Black identity is not a hustle. To trying to identify as black and all of you using that as a hustle, it's not a hustle. And no, you don't get a pass because you vibe with the culture. I'm vibing with them. No. There's dues that need to be paid. Right? There's an admission fee. I don't even know what the price is. I just know that, we walk this and we've been walking this, you know what I mean? And still walking this, being who we are. There's no need to try to claim what we are because that's one thing we can't hide, being who we are, right? But when somebody tries to convince you that there's something and then they tell you, girl, look at my track. Look at my track. Look at my hair. You can see I'm black. And they won't even look. They'll tell you something like that, but Tisa Tells won't even tell you her name, her real name. But y'all seen my track. Look at my hair. Them losers. Boy, but look, like I said, they call that manipulation 5.-876 with a comma. Because there's some more shit that's gonna come after that. You see what I'm saying? Right? Like I said, you don't get a pass because you vibe with the culture. If Tisa Tells wants to be taken seriously, she needs to do what every real journalist or YouTuber or a person who's speaking on certain subject, she needs to lead with transparency. What's your name? Who are you? Transparency, integrity. Stop saying that it was because of you that the U.S. Marshals locked everything down when it's not true, right? And respect. Stop calling people out their names because they ask you a question, right? That you may not be uncomfortable with. That you may be uncomfortable with based on you painting a picture or kicking a narrative, right? And when it doesn't go your way, now all of a sudden, these dusty niggas and Negroes and da-da-da-da. Huh? Where'd that come from? He just asked you a question. See, she could stand on it when not being confronted, right? But when being confronted, she didn't know how to deal with it. So much so, like I said, and I did a video on this, so much so that she said what? After the dude walked away, she said, but Diddy still ain't gonna let you suck his dick though. I was like, what? Where did she get that from? And I was talking to somebody earlier, right? Listen to me. And I want y'all to understand. When she said that, hypothetically, let's say you don't know anything about the Diddy trial. Somebody passed you that video, right? That video of her saying that to that guy and saying, but Diddy still ain't gonna let you suck his dick though, right? You would immediately think that Diddy or that guy was actually trying to get with Diddy, right? To do something like that. And that Tisa had information in regards to that, why she was saying that. You see how that can be so dangerous and misleading? if you didn't know anything about that, you seen that video and be like, Diddy still ain't gonna let you suck his dick? Or like, that's a guy she talking, like, hold on. Hold on, who is this? Once again, that's the shock value, right? That's the saying anything, right? But it's dangerous because there was nothing like that Diddy said or alluded to or anything like that. There was nothing like that from that guy who just simply asked her about the jury verdict, right? There was nothing like that. He didn't say nothing in regards to that, but that was her response because she had snapped and went off the hook based on the fact that she pushed the narrative that came out to be not true. Diddy wasn't found guilty on the RICO charges and all of the things that the RICO charges, the bribery charges, the witness tampering charges, and all of those other underlying predicate felonies. He wasn't found guilty on none of that. And she was hot. When asked about it, she had been pushing it. And that's how she was getting all of her viewers. And when was asked about it, she snapped. And she's still snapping today. Like I said, once again, made the situation. Look at my tracks. Y'all see my hair. That makes me black. It's appalling, ladies and gentlemen. It's appalling. And like I said, if Tisa Tells wants to be taken seriously, she needs to do what every real journalist, YouTuber, or people giving commentary on certain situations do. Lead with transparency. Who are you? Integrity. Stop lying, basically. Just stop lying. You know what I mean? And respect. Right? For the community she claims to cover, or she claims that she's from. Until then, we see through it. We see through it. And like I said, you can call people dusty, dirty, dingy, and all of these other things that you want to call them, ladies and gentlemen. Those are diversions. None of that's true. None of that's based on truth. None of that's based on fact. It's speculation and innuendo and misinformation at best. Ladies and gentlemen, your boy DELRAY, thank y'all for tuning in. I appreciate everybody. And whoever decided to donate, like I said, we don't ask for nothing here. We just want your time. Share the video. I appreciate you. Straight gang.
Life is like some cards. It's not what you dealt, but how you play it. Play each situation correctly. I remember they used to laugh at a brother.